Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, and Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Hi, and greetings from beautiful sunny Reno, Nevada, the biggest little city in the world. Anyway, I'm Joseph GIAMPAPA, and I'm sure you know who you are, so let's get started. I'm here to talk to you today about self-empowerment or self-actualization. Okay, I'm a self-actualization specialist, communication specialist, and I've written 3 books on the subject. And basically, if you go to whatIwillican.com, you'll find a lot of information about these books. You'll find a lot of testimonials, a lot of comments from people who are using the books and how it's helping them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so don't listen to what I say necessarily. Go right to the horse's mouth of people who are working with the books and find the books helpful. Okay, the first one basically is called What I Will, I Can. This book is interesting because this book talks about the fact that your uniqueness is your greatest strength. Talks a lot about reprogramming the subconscious, because the subconscious actually is the programming aspect of our being, of who we are. Okay, and it gives basically 21 precepts, little tips and guides, if you will, of how to help improve your life and have a better quality of life. Okay, the second book we've got basically is called Unleash the Super You Within. This book is interesting. This book basically is like a little workbook, because it has occasionally has different spots for fill in the blank to kind of give you an assessment of where you are at this point in your life. And you go a little further and you fill in some more things and everything else. Find out things that make your heart sing, the things that bring you joy, put all that stuff together, and it kind of guides you in the direction of where your goals really should be based on what helps your heart to sing. Okay, and then the third one is called Tools for Life. This actually is kind of like a journal, something that you can use on a daily basis for the rest of your life, and you add pages as you go along, and a lot of people are finding it very helpful. So basically, those are the books we're talking about today. Okay, if you have any questions or anything, please bring them forward. I'm going to be here for the next few hours talking with you about the books and about the concepts. If you have any answers, I'd like that also. I need all the help I can get. Anyway, we're talking about self-empowerment, because nowadays, especially now with COVID and everything else going on, it's absolutely sad and amazing how many people seem to think their life is basically ineffective, like it doesn't matter. like they're basically just victims of what's going on. And nothing could be further from the truth, because you are so powerful, you are so unique, you are so special, you can affect so much. But if you don't do it, it doesn't mean a thing, does it? As a matter of fact, Zig Ziglar, one of the greatest motivators of our time, said it is so sad that so many people go to their graves with their songs unsung. How sad. Think about that. How many people go to their graves with their songs unsung? Because you and I, every one of us, comes into this world pre-packaged. We are loaded with all of this potentiality. Okay, we have a question here. It says, what's the difference between reincarnation and resurrection? Okay, interesting. I think that's a question more for a spiritualist than myself. I don't profess to be a spiritualist or a psychiatrist or anything, so I can't really answer that question for you. I think that's the one you got to delve in a little deeper with a specialist in that area. I know reincarnation basically is based on the fact that we have lived many other lives, and that we are energy, and energy can't be destroyed. Therefore, our body disappears, but then our energy goes down the road into another body, another environment, and then another world. I think you'd have to go more to a spiritualist or a pastor or somebody to get that specific question. Okay, another question. What systems do you use when researching motivational topics? Interesting. As far as what systems I use, basically, a lot of my research has been practical application and research. I had a private practice for many years. I taught at the university. I taught with the schools. I worked with at-risk kids. I worked with abused women. I worked with substance abuse people, recoverers, and recovering addicts, and so on and so forth. So a lot of mine was firsthand experience. So a lot of my research was experiential. I have read a lot of different books, a lot of self-help books. I'm a big fan of Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's no longer with us. Excuse me. And a lot of other books. There are so many books out there and everything. As far as systems, I don't think I really have a system per se. I'm just kind of eclectic as far as collecting different pieces and things that I hear. I watched various books on it and so on and so forth. A lot of people ask me if I saw the movie The Secret regarding law of attraction, and I certainly have. Yes, I've read the books and so on and so forth. So I don't really have a system per se to answer your question, but there's a lot of information out there. Again, my research is based on 40 years of practical application, research, studying, and so on and so forth. I was going to finish my doctorate, and we'll talk about that a little later, based on reprogramming the subconscious. I've done a lot of work with that. A lot of my private practice was based on that, was based on reprogramming. And it was kind of interesting. I'm a very firm believer in the fact that we are loaded with all of this potentiality that we need to start bringing it out and sharing it. Because that's what life's all about. We're all here together, right? We're here to share, all right? To share our expertise, to share our talents, to share our skills. And it's so sad, as Zig Ziglar said, so many of us go to our graves untapped without ever using that stuff. Wow. That means so many inventions we'll never know about. So many beautiful virtuosos, songs, so on, we'll never hear. Even though they were inside the person, they went to their graves without sharing. We're here to share. We're here to show our uniqueness, to bring out our skills. That's what life's all about. Life is not about you being a carbon copy of somebody else, okay? I blame so much of our frustration and troubles on Madison Avenue. I really do. Because the commercial industry, the entire industry, is designed specifically to get you to feel inferior, okay? To get you to feel inadequate, because when you're inadequate, you're no good unless you buy this product, or you're no good unless you try that out, or you're no good unless you get this, okay? That's the whole idea, okay? To show you that you're something less until you buy this product, and then, quote unquote, it's supposed to make you better and whole, right? Nothing could be further from the truth. You're fantastic the way you are. You're completely complete the way you are. You came into this world with this beautiful package, okay? It's like a blueprint that you came into this world with. And we'll never know all the wonderful, beautiful things you're capable of doing, and neither will you until you go for it. Very, very important. Okay, but I got to tell you something. Success is always outside of your comfort zone. So it's going to feel a little easy. Okay, that's why a lot of people don't try. They don't push the envelope because it's scary a little bit. Okay, they have all this potential inside, but it's scary to bring it out. They're afraid they might fail. And they will, probably, many times, because failure is a part of success. Literally, failure is an inherent part of success. Through failure comes learning. That's where we really learn. Some of the best learning experiences in our life came through failure. That's how we learn. Okay? Understand that. Never be afraid to bring out who and what you are. The world's waiting for it. And it has nothing whatsoever to do with the color of your skin, your age, your schooling. None of that matters. You came into this world pre-packaged. It's in there. Like Prego spaghetti sauce, it's in there. You know, Prego used to use that as their slogan. All the good stuff, it's in there. That's how it is with you. And I got to tell you something. There has never been another you on the face of this earth. There never will be ever again a person exactly like you, with your talents and skills and all of these beautiful things. You're a one of a kind. That doesn't make you weird. It makes you absolutely incredibly special. Wow. Isn't it time you learn to bring all of this stuff out? Again, as I said, it has nothing to do with age. It's in there, okay? And it's not going to disappear. It's going to be in there till the day you die, unless you bring it out, okay? It's like a little rose seed. You know, you get a little rose seed, you put it in the ground, you water it, you let it get, sun and everything else, and it's going to grow into this magnificent rose bush with beautiful roses and everything. But we'll never know if you don't plant it. It's just this little speck of dust. And that's all it'll ever be until you go for it and plant it. Okay, another question here. What are the common misconceptions people have? Misconceptions, a lot of times, and again, we'll get into this and why it's about programming the subconscious. Misconceptions, a lot of people feel, number one, they're powerless. They have no control over anything. They're worthless. And their misconceptions are they have no talents, they have no skills, they're a failure. All of these are misconceptions that are self-imposed, okay? Self-imposed misconceptions that literally are not true at all, okay? Nelson Mandela, in his inaugural speech, he said, our biggest fear is not that we're inadequate, but that we're more powerful than we can ever imagine. And so it is, okay? Any limits we have are self-imposed. All the limits we have, we've created. And how do we do it? With this gizmo right here, with our mouth. We literally build and create in our subconscious our own limits. Remove your limits and watch your success. It's absolutely amazing. So many of us constantly are piling limit upon limit upon limit upon limit. I can't do it. I'm worthless. Maybe I could do it when I was younger, but now I'm older. I can't do it. Okay, you can't do it. And we're ever feeding this information into our subconscious. Because here's the interesting thing. Now, this is interesting. When I was going to finish my doctorate, I was working on the subconscious, which is phenomenal. Subconscious is a fantastic entity. Okay. The Russians during the Cold War were doing so much work in programming and stuff. It was amazing. And when the Cold War ended, they shared all this information with us. And it was wonderful because they were eons ahead of us. And what they found out, first of all, what they said is, number one, there are no two voices on the face of the earth exactly alike. Okay, we knew that. But in other words, if you get an audio specialist or something to record your voice as far as the tonality and all of this stuff, there are no two voices on your voice is totally unique unto you as far as pitch and intonation, all that stuff. Okay, all right. Then they found our subconscious, and this is interesting. They found out when we're born, we come in pre-packaged. Our subconscious is tied directly to the sound of our particular voice. What does that mean? Simply this: whatever you say with your mouth goes in your ear and programs you. They found that the subconscious is audio programmable based on the sound of your specific voice. In other words, an audio specialist could come by with a recorder and place it over by your mouth, and you could give the command, pick up the book, okay? And then he goes to 499 other people who to everybody else sound just like you. Pick up the book, so on and so forth. And then he scrambles them, and you can sit there and listen to these commands from 500 people. And the moment your ear hears your particular voice, you'll perk up, because your subconscious, again, is incredibly sensitive to the sound of your voice. So what does that mean? Simply this: watch what you say with your mouth, because it's going to go in your ear and program you. Now, here's the interesting thing about the subconscious, which is a very unique entity. Number one, we know the subconscious never sleeps. It's forever on duty, 24/7, listening, okay? Waiting for things to come out of your mouth to program, okay? Number two, the subconscious has no reasoning capabilities. It cannot think. The subconscious cannot think. It has no cognition, no reasoning abilities. All it is basically is a recorder, okay? The subconscious job is to record what's input and then help you to become it. That's the subconscious function, okay? Also, number three, and this is very important, the subconscious doesn't know truth from fiction, falsehood from reality, a lie from truth, a joke from truth. You could say something in jest and it'll go in your ear and program whether you mean it or not. Okay, for example, you can say, I'm such a klutz. You know, I'm tripping over my own 2 feet all the time. I'm such a klutz. Okay, you are a klutz. And you will become a klutz eventually. It's amazing. So this is very important. You know, it's interesting. Research is telling us now that as much as 85 to 90% of everybody in society is programming themselves to fail every day of their life. Isn't that interesting? And how do we do it? As I mentioned it, with our mouth. We say things like, you know, I can't do it anymore. Maybe when I was young, I could do it and everything, but now I'm older, so I can't do it. Okay, you can't do it. Or, you know, anything like that. You know, well, I don't have the schooling or anything, so I can't do it. You know, I'm not as smart as he is. Okay, you're not as smart as he is. And we're putting these limits on, which is so sad. You know, by the time we're an adult, we got tons of limits and restraints on us, and they're all self-imposed. Get rid of those limits and watch how your success will soar. Absolutely. If you don't say anything negative about you, the sky is the limit. Absolutely. You know, it's interesting. A couple of days ago, I talked about running, because when I was a kid, I used to love to run. And I remember, I'm aging myself now here, but I remember in those days when I was a little young kid and everything, the 4-minute mile hadn't been broken yet. And I remember asking my coach one day, I said, hey, coach, you think one day a human being, somebody will break the 4-minute mile? And he said, forget it, GIAMPAPA, it can't be done. I said, why? He said, I don't know, because a human can't do it. A jaguar could do it. A cheetah can do it. Yeah, maybe a gazelle or something. But a human, So I accepted, okay, human can't run that fast. A couple of days later, it really bothered me, And so I went back to him. I said, hey, coach. He goes, what do you want? I said, what would happen if a guy could run the mile faster than 4 minutes? He said, how do I know? I don't know. His eyes would pop out or something. He'd blow up or something. His gizzard would break. Who knows? I said, okay, you can't do it. In 1954, along comes a guy by the name of Roger Bannister. Nobody told this guy it was impossible. He just liked to run. So he's out on the track and he goes running along, and all of a sudden, bada boom, bada bing, he breaks the 4-minute mile. What happened? Did his eyes pop out? Did he blow up? Did his gizzard break? No. Suddenly, we now knew it was faster. A human being could run the 4-minute mile faster than 4 minutes. Isn't that amazing? Nothing happened. He was able to do it. You want to know something fascinating? 1 year later, over 317 people broke the 4-minute mile, because now we knew you could do it without blowing up or anything, right? Yeah. Now, isn't that amazing? Up until 1954, no one that we know of broke the 4-minute mile, because we were told we couldn't do it. But now we knew it was possible. 317 people did it. As a matter of fact, the following year, another 300 people did it. And now, who knows? It's probably 79 gazillion, But the bottom line is, once the limit was removed, everybody started doing it, because now we knew it was possible. If we were told, oh, it's not possible, nobody did it. So you understand what I'm saying? Remove your limits and watch your success. Stop limiting yourself. Watch what you say with your mouth, okay? Because anything you say with your mouth goes in your ear and programs you. We are audio programmable based on our specific voice, okay? These books talk all about that and everything. They're very easy books. They're guides. Basically, they're handbooks, okay? They're not meant to be read from cover to cover and then put on the shelf. No, they're meant to keep and use on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, in the website here, whatiwillacan.com, I have a whole list of comments from different people. And there's one woman on there who says she keeps the book on the front seat of her car. And it's all dog-eared and worn out and everything, but she says she uses it on a daily basis. If she has some issue or something, she turns to where I'm talking about that particular issue, and she implements it or whatever. So these books are meant to be guidebooks, okay, handbooks, if you will, okay, and they're made specifically to be easy reads. As a matter of fact, this book here, for example, okay, there's a lot of space between the lines and everything. They're written on about an 8th grade level, reading level, and they could be read like that book there, What I Will, I Can, could be read probably in about 3 hours at a single sitting. Okay, they were made so a person could get one at the airport, and by the time they get off the airplane where their destination is, they've read the book. So that's the idea. Okay, these are simple books as far as giving you tips and guides to make your life a better quality, to change your life, if you will, to reprogram your life, if you will. I told you I had a private practice. I work with at-risk kids, abused women, recovering drug addicts, and so on and so forth. And it's phenomenal, the beautiful successes people have with their lives when they reprogram this. I tell people, if you don't like your life, change it, okay? We in this world were given the beautiful opportunity of free will. We can change our life anytime we want. And it has nothing whatsoever to do with your age. It has nothing to do with your education, color, skin, and as I mentioned before, none of that stuff matters. Okay? age is the biggest one. People use that as such a crutch, and it used to really aggravate me because nothing's further from the truth. People say, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, that's probably true, but you can certainly teach an old person new tricks. Okay? We're not dogs. Okay, understand that. We can program ourselves anytime we desire. Okay? As the old saying, today's the first day of the rest of your life. And that's so true. You don't like your life? Do something about it. From today on, start a new life. Dr. Wayne Dyer says, see all things as you desire them to be. See all things as you desire them to be. And you'll already start to create the life you want. Very important. Again, know this. You are so loaded with potentiality, with talents and skills and traits, and will never know all this wonderful stuff that you're capable of. And neither will you until you go for it. And it's so sad that so many people don't. They're all prepackaged. You came into this world prepackaged. You came into this world with a blueprint, if you will. Okay? That little rose seed is kind of prepackaged with its own little blueprint. You put it in the ground, you water it, you let it get sun day in and day out. Eventually it's going to come this magnificent rose bush with beautiful roses and colors and flavors, smells, everything. But we'll never know it unless you plant it. As long as it's just a little seed, that's all it's going to be, a little speck. It's going to look like a piece of dust. Okay, but it's got all that potential inside. And that's how you are. You have all of this neat, fantastic stuff inside of you. Aren't you at least curious? You should be all you were meant to be. I love that slogan. The Army took it. They say, be all you can be. And that's so true. Shouldn't you bring that stuff out, not only for your benefit, but for ours? Share it with us. Share it with the world. You came into this world a gift to this world. As I mentioned, there never was another you, and there never will be again. That doesn't make you weird. It makes you so, so unique. Shouldn't you share it with us? Don't you want to know all the things you're capable of doing? And again, it doesn't mean you're not going to fall on your face sometimes or anything. If you watch, prior to my coming out live each day, I also have some videos playing, a very short video one from when I lecture to people. I'm a lecturer also. I go around lecturing large audiences and things. And I talk about the concept of walking. Whoa, we got somebody here and I didn't shut off the phone. It's my boo-boo. My bad. Sorry about that. As I mentioned, talking about, now I just forgot what we're talking about. Okay, basically talking about your uniqueness and your specialness and bringing it out. It's about time you do that, because I had a friend from Ireland who said, if you wake up and you're breathing, you still have stuff to do. And so it is. That's so true. We don't know all these great things inside of you. As I mentioned, I talked about walking, okay, which is really fascinating because that kind of blows my mind. When you were a little kid, or 10 months old, maybe 15 months old, who knows, you're a little baby and everything. You looked around, you saw people walking around, you thought, hey, that's pretty cool. I think I'll try that. You start to take a few steps, you fall down, you hit your chin, you hurt yourself, you try again and everything. You fall down, you skin your knee, you hurt yourself. Did you quit? No. You kept going, you kept trying until one day, suddenly you were walking. Wow, how cool is that? And the rest is history, as they say. It's interesting. I talk to audiences, 500, 1,000 people, big audiences. When it's all over, a lot of them come up, line up and everything, we hug and talk and everything. I've never, in all of my lectures, ever had a single person crawl up to me. When I say, what are you doing down there? Oh, I don't do that walking thing. I tried it once. I fell down. I hurt myself. I don't like it. No. Every single one of us saw what we wanted. We liked it. So we did it. You understand that? Isn't that fascinating? That's absolutely fascinating. You know, it's interesting. Basically, when we're a child, we come into this world with all these talents and traits, and we see things and we want to do it and we go for it. Okay? We go for it. As a matter of fact, there's a saying, it says, when you were young, you took so many chances. Why? Because you were success oriented. You didn't worry about what if I fail? What if I fall down? What if I hurt my, none of that. You didn't think about that when you were a kid, right? You just saw something you wanted to do, so you did it. I mean, it's amazing. When I think of some of the things I did when I was a kid, I said, what was I, nuts? You know, I mean, we used to swing on the old swings, you know, swing till we came up, you know, like 100 feet off the ground practically, and we would jump off of the swing. I mean, what were we, nuts, crazy? But we did it. We didn't think, wow, I could fly into a building, or I could fall down on it, you know, hit a tree or knock myself out or whatever. You don't think of that. You just see something you want to do and you do it. And you know, about 95% of the time we accomplish it. And it's wonderful. What happened to that spirit? You know, it's still in there, like Prego spaghetti sauce. It's in there. But as we get older, we tend to block it with all these little things. Well, I could fall and hurt myself. Yeah, I could skin my knee. I could break my bones. I could really hurt my, whatever. How sad. Our focus as we get older tends to be more and more negative. When we were kids, our focus was positive, strictly. That was it. We didn't even let negativity enter into it. We focused on the light at the end of the tunnel, and we kept going. And we succeeded. Our success was because of our focus. That's what brings you success, focusing on the light at the end of the tunnel, okay? Not on all the impediments along the way. No. You focus on your objective, on the end, on bringing out all this fantastic stuff within you. We have a question here. How would you ensure your speeches are captivating and informative? Oh, I don't know if you can ensure that or guarantee that. My specific take on this, basically, I used to teach public speaking and everything. Number one, I say, don't talk unless you have something to say. And I'm not trying to be flip. I mean, it should be informational. Nobody wants to listen to something that doesn't concern them. So number one, it should concern them. Number two, it should be of benefit to the person. Okay, nobody's going to want to listen to something that doesn't benefit them. Okay, if I'm going to say, I'm going to talk to you about the green-winged Malamute-hearted guy or whatever, you know, what some conglomeration, you think, what the heck do I care? Because it doesn't affect you. But if I get up there and I say, I'm going to tell you something that could save your life, you're going to suddenly perk up. Okay. Whoa, we got this thing again. My humble apologies. Okay, so in other words, in order to hold an audience's interest or somebody's interest, number one, talk about things that certainly concern them. Number two, hold their attention by virtue. We'll take care of this right now. Okay. There you go. I apologize. That should have been done a long time ago. Anyway, when you talk to people, audiences especially, first of all, use as many of your senses as you can. You know, we've all had teachers in school or college, high school, whatever, that talk in a monotone, and they look like they're a talking statue. They hardly ever move, hardly ever look anywhere, and the words just come out of their mouth. They're like I say, a talking statue, like a drone or something. You know, and it's really sad, okay? Because what happens then, we only need to use one sense, our ears, okay, to listen. The other senses aren't needed, so we disengage. Now, by disengaging, it means you don't have to watch because the guy's a statue, he's not doing it. So you can close your eyes and go to sleep, which some students do, but they get penalized, right? Or they can find something to occupy their eyes, look out the window, watch what's going on outside, or something, count the, the ceiling squares or whatever. And again, they'll get penalized. Okay. So it's your obligation to use as many senses as possible. So when you're talking, you're using audibility. If you move around, I'm Italian, we talk a lot with our hands. Okay. As a matter of fact, they say that's why Italians don't talk in winter. We don't want to freeze our hands, But in other words, you should be very animated, because then you're occupying the eyes. So that's 2 senses you're using. Okay. If you're talking about smelling a beautiful pie that your mama made on Thanksgiving Day or something, and you could virtually smell it, you're suddenly using the sense of smell. Okay. Touchy-feely, you talk about a nice warm blanket, something smooth, and you help create that. In other words, the more senses you can use to engage your audience, the more you're going to hold them. Okay, but the bottom line, number 1, is give them information that's specific to them, to benefit them, to help them. And then at the end of your talk or your book or whatever, you should tell them how they can use this information. I mean, you just filled their head with all this stuff, all this information. What are they supposed to do with it now? Tell them how to use it. Now that you know this could save your life someday, write it down, put it where you can see it, or whatever. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, again, bottom line, you should never talk unless you have something to say. I used to belong to a lot of speakers groups, and I had people in there that frankly, I had one woman, she said, I could talk about anything. I could talk for hours anywhere. Just tell me what to talk about, and I'll go up there and I'll start talking and talking and talking. And I think, yeah, but who's going to listen? The only time you should talk is if you have something to say, and hopefully something to benefit other people. But enough of that. We're talking about your uniqueness, your ability to share with others. And that's why we're here. At least that's my take. We're here to share our specialness. Okay? Nobody wants a carbon copy of other people. Okay? We certainly have enough of that. Again, I blame it on Madison Avenue with the commercials. They want us to be like everybody else. There used to be a commercial for Dial soap, I think it was. They said, don't you use Dial? Don't you wish everybody did? No, I don't. I'll go home. I'm sorry. If you don't use the right hair color, you won't be beautiful like everybody else and everything. And so we're constantly walking around with all this frustration because we're trying to be like him or trying to be like her or keep up with the Joneses. And the point, in fact, is you'll never be that, because you're not any of that. You are unique unto you. That doesn't make you weird. It makes you incredibly special. Another question. What are your thoughts on imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome. I'm not quite sure what that's all about. Okay, I assume that means pretending you're someone else. Okay, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I certainly don't profess to be. So obviously I just have an opinion like everybody else. My take is, first of all, you'd have to know what is the reason for it. I mean, if the person is trying to be like somebody else or something to con other people, then certainly that's not a healthy thing or something. But if somebody is taking on a facade, if you will, of someone that they want to be, that's in essence a lot of times a good thing. Even in the Bible, it says, act as though you have it before you have it, and you shall have it. Okay, in Hollywood, they say fake it until you make it, and so on. So they say if you want to be this type, try to act like you are that person already. And before you know it, you'll get comfortable in that skin and become it. Okay. So again, I think my take would be, what is the motive? Okay. First, check the motive of the person who's got an imposter syndrome, if you will, and wants to be somebody else or something. What is their reason? I think that has a lot to do with whether it's justified or not. And again, that's strictly subjective anyway. It's up to you. So anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking about reprogramming your subconscious for a better life. Bringing out these things inside you that you were meant to bring out. You came into this world prepackaged. Shouldn't you share these things with us? My goodness. I talk with little kids a lot of times about seeds and stuff. I say, if you have mustard seeds, which are really tiny, mustard seeds are really tiny. If you have about 100 little mustard seeds in your hand and everything. It looks like you got a little pile of sand or something, okay? And then you throw on top of that some strawberry seeds, which are also very little tiny, and you throw that on there. And then you throw on some petunia seeds, and they're also little specks, and you throw it on, you mix it all up and everything, and you show somebody what you got in your hand. It looks like a little handful of sand, and that's all it'll ever be, unless you do something with those little seeds. If you take one and put it in the ground, water it, let it get sun, it's amazing. One time you might get this beautiful green mustard bush. Okay, another time you might get this beautiful tasting strawberries that are so sweet and colorful and delectable. Another time you might get all these beautiful different colored flowers with nice aromas and everything. But we'll never know unless you do something with those little seeds. If you don't, it's like having a handful of sand. That's it. You understand? Activity is what makes the difference. You got to do something with it. You know, it's almost like Mark Twain once said, a person who cannot read is no better off, or I'm sorry, a person who can read and doesn't is no better off than a person who can read, or a person who can't read. You understand what I'm saying? A person who doesn't read is no better off than a person who can't read. You understand what I'm saying there? Same thing, or, you know, you can have all these beautiful seeds, but they're worthless basically unless you do something with them. That's how it is with you. But understand this, okay? Things aren't going to happen overnight, okay? Just because you plant the seed and everything doesn't mean automatically it's going to happen tomorrow. Things happen in their own time. And that's the big bugaboo in our day and age, because you've probably heard it said, we live now in a world of instant gratification. People are used to getting it now, okay? They have to have it now. I want it now, okay? It seems like patience is a very rare commodity now. It's something of the past, okay? And that's how, you know, you have to accept success is going to take its time. A lot of times you have to work at it a bit, okay? It's not going to be instant. You listen to that inner voice, you start to bring something out, but it's going to take some tempering, okay? Some work to get you to where you want to go. It doesn't mean you don't have those talents, you do, but they also have to be tweaked a little bit going along the way, okay? You're going to find once you initiate your goal, what you want to do, what you want to be and everything, it's amazing how the universe tends to come in and help. The right kind of people will start to come in and help you along the way. The right experiences, the right places, all of this starts to fall into place if you stay open to it. But a lot of people don't. They have blinders on. I don't want to know about that. I just want to get to this and that's it, you know, and they block everything else. And that's sad because they're blocking out all the help that could have been along the way. And that's, you know, life gives us all that stuff along the way if you're willing to stay open and accept it and acknowledge it. A lot of times people won't do that. They block it out. You know, I tell people, think of the pinball machine. You know, you pull that thing and bang, it hits the ball and the ball goes off, you know. But if the ball starts to wander off to the right, what happens? There's a flipper there. You knock it back in place. Boom. And then it keeps going. Then it starts to go off to the left. What do? You hit it with another flipper. Bang. You knock it back into place. And it keeps going. And every time it starts to go off course, you knock it and you bang it. You hit it. You boom, bam, boom, bang. Until it gets to where it's supposed to be. That's how it is in life. Okay? You're going to get these knocks. You're going to get these bangs. You're going to get these booms. Why do you think they call it the school of hard knocks? Right? That's what it's all about. All these little knocks, all these bangs, all these booms are beneficial because they're learning experiences. Some of the greatest teaching in the world comes from failure. Falling on your face, falling down, not completing something, okay, the way you wanted it. All these things are teachers. They teach us things. So understand that. It's not going to be instant, but yet you should do it. If it makes your heart sing, do it. That's the real clue of where you should be. Okay? If you're not happy with your life, do something about it. But don't just choose anything willy-nilly. Listen to that inner voice. Okay? Listen to that intuition. Listen to that inspiration. Get inspired. Okay? The root word of inspire actually comes from two words. In spirit. So the word inspire means in spirit. Isn't that interesting? Okay, it comes from your higher self. It comes from God. It comes from the universe, whatever. But it's coming to you through your heart. And you know, that's interesting because unfortunately we try to use this thing, the quote unquote, the brain, the conscious mind, to solve problems all the time. And that's not what this was for, really. Einstein even said it. Einstein said the brain was never meant to think cognitively. The heart was the element that came up with the ideas. The brain was meant to temper it and fine-tune it. You understand? There's a neat woman by the name of Pam Grout who wrote a couple of books. The first one was called E equals MC squared, based on one of Einstein's formulas. But basically, she said, and I have a little quote here, it says, the conscious mind was never designed to solve problems. It was designed for just two things: to identify problems and to formulate goals. Once you've done this, then you need to relax, go wash the dishes, wash the car, go to work, and let your higher self take over. So in other words, once you have the idea of where you want to go, what you want to be, and so on and so forth, remove your conscious mind onto something else, something very mundane or something. You know, go out and plant some flowers or something, go out and sit on a rock, go out and wash the car, whatever. And your subconscious mind, your higher self, your superconscious, if you will, okay, God, the universe, your higher self, whatever, will come through and give you that information. As a matter of fact, Einstein and Edison and a lot of great thinkers and everything purposely acknowledged this. As a matter of fact, Einstein said he never thought or created anything. Same thing with Edison. Edison said he never invented anything. Okay, they got inspired and then developed it. And if you really do any research or read biographies of Einstein, Edison, Tesla, a lot of these guys, you'll find something really interesting. They all had a cot in their office, and they would take naps because that's where the inspiration came from a lot of times. But it could come from daydreaming or whatever. You know, whenever you're doing something very basic, mundane, you know, planting flowers or something like that, or washing the car or something, and your mind is kind of resting, that's when the inspirations come. Okay? It's really interesting. I know this one woman who wrote this fantastic book talking about manifesting and everything else, and she said she gets all of her best ideas while she's sitting on the toilet. So I don't know, go figure. So the interesting thing is you move your conscious mind away from thinking of the problem, and that's when things start to come. So trust that. Einstein, like I say, he used to take 4 to 5 naps a day a lot of times. He had a cot right in his office. Okay, so learn to trust that. Learn to trust that little voice, that inspiration. Again, inspire comes from higher up, okay? It comes from 2 words, in spirit. Inspire, in spirit. Okay, start to acknowledge that. Start to listen to it. But unfortunately, because we live in a world of hustle and bustle now and everything, it's really going crazy. We live in a world now, especially in the Western world, of people constantly multitasking. You know, everybody now, it seems like they're a multitasker. They do 3, 4, 5 things at once and everything. I had one woman actually bragged about it. Oh, I can do 4 things at once, you know, and everything. They've proven, research has bared out bore out the fact that at the very best, when you're multitasking, the best you could do any one of the things is about 60% accuracy. Okay? That's interesting, huh? It's better you should learn now to get back into focus. One thing at a time, if it's really important to you. One thing at a time, if you really care about it. Start to focus on just that. And you'll amaze yourself how quick you'll get towards accomplishing what it is you were meant to accomplish. You know, I have friends. I have one guy, you know, the guy would come home from work. First thing he'd do is take the mail and start going through all the letters and stuff while he's unlocking the door. Unlocks the door. First thing he does is turn on the radio and the music playing. And he's still looking through all the mail and everything. And he walks into the front room and turns on the TV so he can see the news while the radio's playing and while he's looking for all the things. And you think, wow. You know, I ask him, I say, do you ever sit down and just sit and think a little bit? He goes, no. Why would I want to do that? Bottom line is, he wouldn't be able to. I know a lot of people, they can't stand to be with themselves. They can't stand to just sit with themselves. How sad. Because let's face it, you're the only one that's going to be with you for the rest of your life. Is it a time you learn to get along with yourself? Plus, I tell people, imagine how far you could go if you were your best friend instead of your worst critic. Think about that, okay? How far could you go if you were your best friend instead of your worst critic? Now, that's interesting because, believe it or not, the average person in the street tends to be far harder on themselves than they are on anybody else. Think about it. Is that you? People tend to be much harder on themselves than they are on anybody else. Think about what a best friend does. You know, maybe you have a best friend that's going for a job interview and you go with the person. Person comes out and says, didn't get the job. It's kind of sad. What do? You say, hey, come on, cheer up. Remember, you were the best person in school with this particular subject. You got all A's and everything. You were the one most likely to succeed. You can do it. Wait till you get to that next job. You'll see. You know, we build them up, right? With us, a completely different story. We come out after not getting the job. Well, Klutzo, you did it again. There you go. You know, not anymore. Learn to become your own best friend. Understand that you have all this potential inside of you, all this good stuff. You came into this world, this intelligent, fantastic, beautiful being. Okay? It's in there like Prego spaghetti sauce. And everybody's like that. You have that. Everybody has that. Learn to appreciate it. Because let's face it, you didn't create it. God created it. The universe created it. Your mom and dad created it. Whatever. But not you. So learn to love it. Learn to appreciate it. It has nothing whatsoever to do with conceit. It has to do with logical assessment. Appreciate the goodness, the talent, the potential. That's you. And that's wonderful. Shouldn't you learn to get along with yourself? As I said, you're the only one that's going to be with you for the rest of your life. Imagine how far you could go if you were your best friend instead of your worst critic. Think about that. You know, it's interesting. We have a tendency, unfortunately, again, in the Western world, to listen to what other people say about us all the time. You think I should do that? Yeah, well, what? I'm that? Yeah, I know. I'm really like that. No, forget other people's opinions, okay? Because in the first place, it's usually wrong. The only opinion that should matter to you is what you think about you. Okay, that's so very important. The image you have of yourself is directly related to your success. Let me say that again. Your self-image is directly related to your success. You want to succeed? Start to believe in you. Start to see the worth in you. Start to see the intelligence and beauty in you. Okay? Remember, we're talking about programming, the subconscious. People can say things about you and everything, and it'll matter a bit, but not near as much as if you say it with your mouth. Okay, if it's a negative thing. Like, unfortunately, some parents will look down, you're worthless, you're stupid, you're always doing wrong things. What's wrong with you? You're a failure. You're a dumbbell. Gee, I guess I am. I'm a dumbbell. Okay, you're a dumbbell. And we start to buy into it. How sad. How absolutely sad. Because nothing would be programmed in there unless you say it, unless you buy into it. So don't. Forget what other people say, because it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you think and say about you. You understand? I think it was a couple of days ago I talked about Charlie Chaplin, because I really like the guy. Charlie Chaplin once went to a look-alike contest and came in third. True story. Yeah. The judges thought somebody looked more like him than he did. Go figure. Okay? So everybody's got an opinion about us, and it's usually wrong. Learn to trust only yourself, because all the answers are there inside of you. Again, like Prego spaghetti sauce, it's in there. Okay? Learn to listen to that inner voice. Learn to trust that inner voice. As a matter of fact, people like Einstein and other great thinkers and everything, a lot of times give themselves a cue, if you will, prior to going to sleep. They'll say, I want to know the solution to this thing that I'm working on. And then they go to sleep, and somehow during their dreams or whatever, dream state, the answers start to come. Okay, so you can actually trigger help by intuition or from inspiration, that type of thing, by letting your higher self, if you will, know what it is you want to know. Because you have all of this access to all of this information from your higher self, from the ether, if you will, the information that's out there. You can pull from it by giving it the right cues. Okay? But bottom line, learn to trust yourself. Okay, I'm here to answer any questions you might have within reason. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a communication specialist dealing with self-actualization, self-empowerment, anything related to that, related to the books. I'd be more than happy to talk with you about and discuss it. Okay, I'm here for another 76 minutes or so. All right, and that's my job. I'm here to talk about these books, self-empowerment, which I believe to be really helpful guidebooks. Again, if you go to whatiwillican.com, not only can you purchase the books on that website, but this particular website has discounts for the books. Such a deal. Okay? I mean, you could buy my books on Amazon, you could buy them at Barnes & Noble, but if you go to this site, you get discounts for the book. So this would be the way to go, I would think. All right? So anyway, learn to trust yourself. Learn to focus. Learn to watch what you say with your mouth. Because again, it goes in your ear and it programs you. Again, as I said before, the subconscious has no discerning factor. It doesn't know truth from reality. It doesn't know a joke from reality. If you say it, it's going to imprint it. Okay? I talk about in my lectures the example, for example, let's say there's this party going on or something, and there's this one woman who's pretty rotund, pretty big, and she's in there, and it's a birthday party or something. Somebody says, well, Bertha, you want another piece of cake? Bertha will say something like, well, if I eat this cake, it's going to go right to my hips. Take cake, put on hips. And then she wonders why she gains weight. She told herself what to do with that cake. You understand what I'm saying? All right. Same thing true. You could have a buddy who eats like a horse, and never seems to gain weight or anything, right? And you ask him, you say, hey, how come, you eat all this stuff and everything, you never gain weight? And the guy says something like, I don't know. I guess I just burn it up. Take cake, use as fuel. Getting the message here? Watch what you say with your mouth, because you will create all of this stuff in you and all these limits and everything by what you say with your mouth. Words are so important. What you say matters. It really does. Words are incredibly important. Okay, start to watch what you say. Watch that stuff. Start to listen to what other people say about themselves. You'd be surprised. If somebody could follow you around all day with a microphone, you'd be amazed at how much negativity you say about you without even thinking about it. And so it is with other people. They'll say things like, oh, wow, I wish I could do that. I can't do that, but if I was younger, I could do it, I'm sure, but now I can't do it. Okay, you can't do it. And we're putting all these limits on ourselves. How sad. How absolutely sad. Okay? If you don't have these limits, it's amazing how successful you could be. I think it was yesterday. Again, remember I told you I like to run and everything. I told you about Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile and everything. I followed one time. There was this race worldwide in this particular one was in Australia, and it's a 600-kilometer race. That's a big race. Okay, it comes out to 375 miles. Okay, I did the math one time. Okay, so it's a 600-kilometer race, and it lasts for a couple of days and everything. And runners come from all over the world, and this race goes every 5 years. This particular one started in Sydney, Australia. Okay, a 600-mile race. Runners were coming in from all over the world. Uganda and Australia and China and Chicago, America. I was going to say Chicago, but United States, all of these places. And we had some of the best runners. They had studied on the computer the trajectory of your foot and everything, and they had all the high-tech analyzations. And then you get the other runners with the ergonomic, $800 shoes and all that kind of stuff. And they're coming in from all over the place, and all the news media from all over the world, and ours, CNN, Fox News, NBC, they're all there too. And they're all signing up, getting ready for this race. And along comes a guy from Australia by the name of Cliff Young. Now, let me tell you a little. Cliff Young owned a little ranch, okay, only a ranch, kind of ranch and farm, but they don't call it that in Australia. They call it a station. Right? So Cliff Young had this little station, but he heard about this big race, and so he wanted to race. So he comes over to the table and he says, is this where they sign up for the race? And the lady looks at him. Now, I got to tell you, he comes with bib overalls, old Farmer John overalls, and he's wearing galoshes. Now, somebody gave him these galoshes, and they're like 2 sizes too big. So if he lifts his foot up, the galoshes are going to fall off his feet. So he has to, instead of lifting his leg up, he has to swish, just to keep the galoshes on his feet. So he's wearing bib overalls and galoshes, right? And he comes up, he had an old straw hat. He comes up, is this where I sign up for the race? And the woman says, I beg your pardon? He said, is this where you sign up for the race? She said, do you have somebody to race? And he said, yeah, me. And the woman looks at him and she says, really? And just then, some of the news reporters heard and say, hey, come on, this is going to be good. So before you know it, you got a bunch of news teams around the table and everything. And the woman looks at him and she says, excuse me, sir, but what makes you think you're fast? And he says, oh, I'm fast. He said, on my station, he said, I can't afford a horse. He said, but I have to run after my pigs and my chickens and all my ducks and stuff like that. And he said, I'm fast. The woman says, okay, fill it out. So he fills out all this stuff. Now, interestingly enough, they're all lined up, ready to start the race. And there's old Cliffy, ready to go. And the guy takes the gun, bang, and boom, they're off. Da, 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 da. And they're running along and running along. Now, remember, I said this race usually takes, a couple of days because it's, 600 kilometers, 375 miles. That's a big race, right? But now all the professional runners and everything knew, and it was standard for them to know about the 18-6 rule. The 18-6 rule is where you run for 18 hours and you sleep and eat for 6 hours, okay, during the 6 hours. So the 18-6 rule. Old Cliffy, nobody told him about the rule. He just knew it was a race and you got to run. So he just kept going and going and going and going and going. Long story short, Cliff Young won the 600-kilometer race. And now here's the kicker. He came in a day ahead of the nearest competitor. Isn't that cool? He won the 600-kilometer race and came in a day ahead of the other competitors. Now, here's another interesting thing. Because this was so astounding, they started analyzing it and everything. Why? How could this guy win? I mean, you know, he's got galoshes on and everything. How could he win? They found out that, for example, a runner, when he lifts his foot and he makes that arc and then brings his foot down and the other foot comes up and makes an arc and comes down, they're expending all that energy to do that. Old Cliffy, because he couldn't take his feet up in the air because of the galoshes, he had to swish. He used a lot less energy. So they found out that helped him have endurance for the race and everything. You want to know something interesting? The next 5 years, I think it was the second and third place winner won by swishing. Isn't that cool? We have another question. Can you tell me about a motivational talk where you felt the audience really connected with the subject matter? Oh, well, I like to think it was almost all my lectures, because otherwise, why talk? Okay, you're there to share information with people. And for me, I have to give you a little background here. I started out my adult career as an entertainer. Okay, I was a stand-up comedian in the days of Ed Sullivan, when you wore a suit and you respected your audience and everything. Anyway, I use humor a lot in my talks and things, first of all. And it's interesting because a lot of times when I was an entertainer, I'd be on a television show being interviewed or something, and I'd use the term comedic, and then it dawned on me one day, syllable by syllable, I divided co-medic. Comedy is medicinal. Comedy is very, very helpful. Okay, when you laugh, you produce neuropeptides in your system. Neuropeptides are the most powerful healing chemicals the body can make. They've done studies with this, even with cancer. So when you laugh, you produce neuropeptides, very powerful chemical, right? Plus, you loosen up when you laugh. When I do a lecture, usually, and maybe because I have a captive audience now or something, I usually start out with about 5 to 10 minutes of comedy and jokes and things like that, because it's really interesting. I used to teach body language and stuff, and if you watch people come into an auditorium for a workshop or a seminar or something, usually initially they'll be sitting there like this. You know, psychologically their body is saying, you know, okay, teach me, try, go ahead. They're closed up, right? But if you get all these kind of people and everything and you start talking comedy and jokes and things, you see them starting to laugh and open up and relax. And once you can get them to that point, then you can impart knowledge. Okay? Because let's face it, the brain is a muscle. Okay? And like anything else, when they come in, their muscle is tight. Okay? You're not going to be able to impart any knowledge because their mind is closed initially. But if you can get them to laugh and relax and everything, the muscle starts to relax and open up. Then you could start to share information. Okay? You say, tell me when the audience really connected with the subject matter. Well, the key, I talk about you, the individual, and how things could benefit you. And let's face it, we all like to learn about ourselves. Okay? So I think audiences really connect when you're talking to them specifically, things that will benefit them, how things will help them. Okay? They don't want to learn about other things going on. They want to, what's in it for me? That's the bottom line. If you could tell them what's in it for them, then they tend to listen. Another question. When are you most fully yourself? Interesting. When am I most fully myself? I think I get the gist of what you're saying here. I think when I'm lecturing, when I'm doing comedy, when I'm talking to people with heartfelt things that I really believe in and everything, I tend to be what's known as the zone. You'll find that with dancers. You'll find that with singers. You'll find it with sports people, basketball players, for example. When they're really tuned in 100% to what they're doing. They're in the zone. They become one with what they're doing. That's when you're fully yourself. You're kind of merged with whatever it is you're doing. Dancers do this a lot. You can see, if you could zoom in, if you had a camera to zoom in on their face, you could just see in their eyes and everything. It's almost like they're under a hypnotic spell. They're one with the dance. A singer that's really heartfelt, that puts her whole or his whole self into the song and sings 100% with him or herself, that person's in the zone. That person is fully in him, fully in himself or herself. Same thing again with my lectures, with my comedy routines, whatever. If I'm really tuned in to what I'm doing, I think I'm fully myself. Okay? And I think that's you too, or anyone. If you're talking with passion about things that you love, things that you believe in, you become one with that thing. And that's how it should be. Okay? As a matter of fact, I always say, don't talk unless you have something to say. And hopefully, if we say something, it should be informative. It should be something you're impassioned about, something you care about. That's what it's all about. Okay? So learn to speak with passion about that which you love, that which you care about, that which you like. And people are going to listen to you then, because there's a saying that says, words from the heart touch the heart. People know when you're talking to a person who's talking just superficially. They're just talking basically to hear themselves talk. We all have people like that, okay? People that are forever superficial and phony on the outside, if you will. They have a facade. You see this false image or something. They're putting themselves forward in this false image of what they want you to think they are, or whatever. It's not heartfelt. It's not genuine. Okay? We should be genuine. I tell people what you see is what you get. You know, take it or leave it. Okay? I am who I am. And that's what it's all about. You know, I owned a studio for training actors for film and television. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hopefully I unconnected the mute. There you go. Okay, now you can hear me again. I have no idea how that happened. Something happened and we went to mute. I didn't do it. Okay, so I assume you can hear me now. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, I'm not sure where we were, what we were talking about, but Some person said, let's see, what sums up my vision? Okay, my vision is to help everyone become all they can become. Okay, as the Army, the old saying in the Army, okay, become all you can be. To me, that's a wonderful slogan because we come into this world prepackaged. We come into this world prepackaged with all this potentiality. Isn't it nice to think that we have all of this beautiful stuff to share? Shouldn't we share it? I think so. I think so. That's what it's all about. Again, as when we started here, I said Zig Ziglar said it's so sad that so many people go to their graves with their songs unsung. What a waste. How sad. How many songs we'll never hear? How many inventions we'll never know about? How many great things we'll never be exposed to because of that? Okay, because you are a unique being. What you have inside of you to share with us is unique unto you. And we'll never know these wonderful things, and neither will you, unless you bring them out and share them with us. Okay? I'm here to talk with you. Now I think you can hear me. Let's communicate, okay? If you have a question, let me know. I'm going to be here for about 6 more minutes, something like that. I think I'll be here for quite a while. All right, if you have any answers, please, I need all the help I can get. Again, go to whatiwillican.com. There's a lot of information there for you, for me to share with you. We have another question. How did your earlier career choices lead you to where you are now? Oh, very interesting, very interesting. In the first place, I always was a talker, okay? And I used comedy a lot. I come from the south side of Chicago. I went to school in Cicero, Al Capone's town. Very tough town, okay? If you had all your teeth, you were considered a sissy, you know? But I was very short, a little guy, and we had a lot of gangs out there and everything. Like I say, very tough town. And I used to use humor to kind of save my hide, if you will, okay? A lot of times. Before I'd get beat up or something, or just about ready to get beat up or something, I would make a joke or two and they'd be laughing and that'd give me a chance to split or something. But no, I found that humor was kind of a best friend for me. I used it a lot. I like to communicate. I like to express things. I come from a large Italian family. I come from a family of 11. There were 9 of us kids and we all talked, okay? I used to say at the dinner table, if you didn't yell for something to eat, you didn't eat. But not true. In the family, we communicated very much with each other. That's where I learned how to share and care and love and everything else. I'm very proud of my family. It was very cohesive. We really cared about each other. We talked a lot about each other. We talked around the dinner table. Somebody said, I talked to a senior citizen a while back, and I said, you know, what's wrong with society today? And he said, people don't talk around the table anymore. He said, they don't even eat around the table anymore. He said, in the old days, dinner time, supper time, everybody is sitting around the table. How was your day? How was school? How was this? And people talked. He said, nowadays, nobody even eats together. And he said, how sad. How sad. They don't talk. They don't eat together or anything. Everybody's an isolate. Everybody's doing their own thing. He said, in the old days, people communicated. They talked a lot. And so I grew up in a talking environment, if you will. Okay, with the exception of, you know, my dad was an immigrant from Italy. He had, you know, like I said, big family. He had 7 sons, you know, trying to run herd on all of us and stuff was a job and a half for my dad and everything. And because I talked so much, he's always trying to quiet me down or something. I remember his favorite saying was, close your mouth and eat. And I used to sit there and say, close my mouth and eat? How can, you know, but that's another story. Anyway, so I like to talk. I like to talk a lot. I like to use comedy. That started me out in a lot of things, but I worked a lot with at-risk kids when I became a teacher, and I worked with abused women and so on and so forth with my private practice. And it's interesting how so many of us are buying into societal dictates or norms or whatever, telling us that we're nobody, we're nothing unless we buy this or do that. And we start to get all this negative input and everything, and it's sad. It's my job to kind of pull them out of this, okay? And I used to do that in school and with my friends and things, and when I work with at-risk kids and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the direction I went in. If you want the technical version as of late, I guess. In 2009, I lost my son, and my son was my best friend. We were like two peas in a pod, if you will. Okay. And when I lost my son, I live in Reno, Nevada, with all the mountains and the hills and things. And I used to walk the hills afterwards and everything, kind of shouting at the moon, wondering why, talking to myself and everything else. And sometimes I walk 3 miles, 5 miles, sometimes even 10 miles, trying to make sense out of everything that happened. And after about a year, it dawned on me, well, obviously I'm still here. There's got to be a reason. What's my purpose and blah, blah, blah. And little by little in my walks, I would start to get inspired with different ideas and things. And I jot down notes that I wanted to remember, sometimes on the back of a gum wrapper or something, whatever. And after about a year and a half, 2 years, I had this stack of, bits and pieces of notes and things that I've written down. And I started to collate them and put them together, put them in kind of an outline form. And then suddenly we're going, wow, this would make a good book, to help other people. And thus was born the first book. And so my books, if you will, I never planned to be an author. I never planned to write a book. I never sat down like perhaps a novelist, say, okay, I'm going to write a book. No, it wasn't like that. The books basically, as far as I'm concerned, wrote themselves. Okay. After a year or two, I compile information, put it together, edit it, and so on, and bring forth the book. So the books basically, as far as I'm concerned, the books write themselves, and I just kind of compute them, put them together, edit them, and share them with everybody else. Okay, so everything in life helps us to get to where we are now. I tell people, if you're not satisfied with your life, go stand in the corner and argue with yourself, because you put yourself there. Everything in life is a choice. Everything in life is a choice, okay? You are exactly in life right now because this is where you brought yourself by virtue of your choices. If you don't like where you're at, change it. Make new choices. But I've got to tell you, success is always outside of your comfort zone, okay? It's always outside of your comfort zone. And so that's scary. A lot of people don't want to do that because, let's face it, you're in your comfort zone because it's comfortable. You don't want to do anything to upset that. That's why you sit in the same seat every time watching TV, okay? You sit around the dinner table in the same chair every day. You go to bed, if you have a partner or something, a relationship, you sleep on the same side of the bed every night because it's comfortable, okay? The unknown is very scary. So to succeed is scary because it's in the domain of the unknown, okay? I told you I work with Hollywood, New York for a while, with actors and things like that too. And I'll tell you, for filmmakers, producers, and directors, they know the best monster ever shown is the one, the best monster they ever could make is the one never shown, okay? Why? Because the viewer can't deal with it. They can't rationalize it away because they don't know what it looks like. And so if they don't show the monster, but they give you all the hints, dun, 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 and it's going to come and everything, each person watching that film is going to see the monster in their head based on the things that scare them. So one person may be afraid of big monster lumpy things. So that's what he will see or she will see as a monster. Another person may be afraid of snakes and worms and creepy crawly things. So in that person's mind, that monster is going to have all kinds of tentacles and things like that, okay? You get the idea. So in other words, a director or producer could never make a monster to satisfy all the people because each person's going to relate to it in their own way. Once they show the monster, then you can reckon with it. Oh, that monster's not so scary. I think I can see the zipper on the back of his costume. Oh, that's not so scary. I bet those feet are made out of latex. What? Because then we can reckon with it and it's not so scary. That's why the greatest horror films, the monster's shown less and less. I think it's the movie Jaws. In the entire movie, you only see the shark 18 minutes, I believe it is, out of the entire movie. All the rest of the time, it's the prequel, like dun, 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 and you know it's coming, and wow, it's scary. And so it is. So we're afraid of the unknown. That's why when you're little kids, you're afraid of the dark, because you don't know what's in there. It could be something big, little, horror, creepy, whatever. But your mom or dad come in, they turn on the light. Oh, it's just a chair. It's just my dresser. That's it. Now I know. So you're not afraid anymore. Another question. Okay. How do you avoid being complacent in your role? How do I avoid being complacent? Well, I don't know. Like I say, for me, I say don't talk unless you have something to say. Okay. I don't think I ever talked just for the sake of talking. I like to think I'm not complacent when I'm talking with people, when I'm lecturing with people, because I like to think and hope. I talk from my heart. I talk about things that I care about. I think the key is to always be in a caring mode. Anything you do should be from a position of caring, a position of wanting to help. Okay? All of us are only going through two states of life. We're either growing or we're dying. Okay? All of us. Okay? We're either learning or we're not. We're decaying and everything. And we should hopefully help each other in that event. Okay? To help each other grow. And we have another question here. It says, what do you want your audiences to remember from your presentations? Oh, well, Christmas is coming up. Remember to buy the books. You can get them on whatiwillican.com. How's that for a commercial? Seriously, though, on this website, whatiwillican.com has discounts for the books. Okay, if you go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or something, you'll get the books, but this one has discounts. So I don't want to tell you which one to go to, but this is a good one. Anyway, what do I want people to learn? Number one, watch what you say with your mouth, because it'll go in your ear and program you. And research tells us that the majority of society is programming themselves to fail every day of their life. So watch what you say with your mouth. Number two, know that you are completely loaded with all this potentiality, and we'll never know it, and neither will you, unless you start to bring it out and share it with us. That's what life's all about. Okay? What else? Let's see. Sharing your potentiality. Watch what you say with your mouth. Don't be afraid to extend the envelope, to go beyond your comfort zone, because that's where success is. Success is always outside of your comfort zone. Remember that. Okay? People say, I hate my life. I say, do something about it. I don't know. It's kind of scary. Yeah. No, well, then stay where you are and be happy. Okay? The bottom line is success is always outside of your comfort zone. I had a professor who used to say, why not go out on a limb? That's where the fruit is. Makes sense, huh? Yeah. So hopefully right there are three precepts I think would be important for you to know, or any of us to know, that we are loaded with potential. Watch what we say with our mouth. Know that in order to succeed, we have to push the envelope. Another question. What are your best memories of speaking? I could tell you stories. Interestingly, talking about fear a little bit and everything too, it kind of ties into this. It's interesting. When I was a comedian, when I was a stand-up comedian, an entertainer, I was in England. I lived in England. And I remember I got booked one time into northern England somewhere in a real kind of they were miners mostly and everything, and a lot of Irishmen, a lot of Irish people were there and stuff. And it was almost like this massive Irish pub. And I remember I got booked into there, and I was going through a dry spell. In show business, we say chicken today, feathers tomorrow. you go up and down and everything. And so I really needed that gig. I needed that money, and it was a good paying job and everything. So I was very excited about going there. I went there and I peeked through the curtains, and it was like a big beer hall with like 500 guys standing and drinking and laughing and talking, and a big roar, and I thought, wow, I got to go out and entertain this mob, and so the manager points to me and says, it's time to go out there. They open the curtains, I walk out, I start to talk, and the first thing I heard from the audience was, Yankee, go home. Yankee, go home. We don't want to know. We don't want to do it. And you couldn't even hear what I was saying over the din. They're all talking, joking, and laughing, and swilling beer and stuff. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. So I tried for about 5 minutes and everything, and they obviously didn't want to even listen to me. So I turned and I started to walk off stage. The manager was standing there like this, and he shook his head. He said, if you want to get paid, you better go back out there. I said, but they don't like me. He said, if you want to get paid, you better go out there. We signed a contract. So I remember I walked out, and it was really interesting. Most of them were standing, drinking, talking, laughing, and everything. So I sat on the edge of the stage, dangling my feet, and I started talking, and I said, look, you guys don't like me. And I said, frankly, I'm not too crazy about you. I said, but I got to stay here. I got to talk to you. So carry on. I'll talk. We'll both talk. We won't care about each other, whatever. And so I'm talking and talking. And suddenly somebody says, hey, shut up. The Yank is trying to say something. And so it gets down to a little lower din, and so I'm talking, and they start listening a little bit more, and you hear a laugh over here. And then I start talking, you hear a laugh over here. And then before you know it, they all start laughing up front. And then before you know it, they're laughing. And so I stand up and I'm talking to them, and you get real quiet. And I'm talking, and they're laughing and going on and on and on. And before you knew it, I ended up doing an hour and a half, and they wouldn't let me off stage. Every time I say, well, really, guys, I got to go now. No, stay, tell us some more stories. And so it turned out to be the best show I ever did in my life. And if I could have quit at the beginning, I certainly would have, and I would have labeled that the worst show I ever did in my life. Okay, so I used to keep a journal about all my shows, and if you look in my journal for that particular show, it's listed as the worst/best show I ever did. So it's interesting. It shows you've got to push the comfort zone. You've got to go through it, even if you're afraid. In the military, we used to say, when I was in the Army, we used to say, a hero is a coward running in the right direction. Okay? Because a hero doesn't have the absence of fear. A hero is still very much afraid, but does the right thing anyway. Okay? So face your fears, because that's usually where success is. It's beyond the fear. Okay? There's always going to be, almost all of us have fear of success. That's why we don't make it a lot of times. People say, oh, I wish I could have this. I wish I could have that. In reality, they're afraid of what would happen if they had it. They're afraid to go after it. Okay, you get the idea? So success is always outside our comfort zone. There's always fear involved. And let's face it, that's what President Roosevelt said. We have nothing to fear except fear itself. Because fear can be so debilitating. Fear has destroyed more dreams and success than anything. Okay? The biggest destroyer of success is fear. So do it anyway. Okay? You're gonna fail initially and stuff, but eventually, if you keep going, you're going to make it. Understand, failure is a part of success. An inherent part of success is failure, because that's where we learn. We learn through failure. We learn through bad experiences, negative experiences, as the example I just gave. Okay, if I could have got off stage in the beginning, I never would have experienced the success of having the best show ever. You know, there's a saying that said if the Pilgrims could have got off the ship during the storm, they never would have made it to the new land, right? So go anyway with the fear. Do it anyway. All right? Know that success is beyond the fear. That's important. You know, I talk about, I live in Reno, Nevada, right? And with Las Vegas and everything, Nevada's a gambling state and everything. I talk about, for example, let's say I have a silver dollar and I throw it up in the air and I catch it, look at it, and it's heads. Cool. I take it, throw it up in the air, catch it, heads again. Okay, so now I'm going to do it a third time. I take the coin, throw it up in the air, catch it. Whoa. 3 times. Heads, heads, heads. Okay, now I take it. I'm going to throw it up. What are the odds that it's going to come up heads again? Still 50-50. But I know, you know, eventually, sooner or later, tails is going to come up, right? We know this. It has to. Otherwise, it would defy the laws of the universe. So we know as long as we keep going, sooner or later, tails is going to come up. That's how it is with you when you go for it towards your goal. Okay? You can have failure and failure and failure and everything, but you know sooner or later that success is going to be there. It has to. Otherwise, it would defy the law of the universe. Okay? It's going to. The only time you fail is when you quit. Okay? Remember that. The only time you fail is if you quit, because then you can't reach your goal. Okay, I talked before, you know, I come from the south side of Chicago and everything. In Chicago, horse racing is a big thing. At least it was when I lived there and everything. And there was a famous jockey by the name of Eddie Arcaro. He was like the world famous jockey, won more money than any other jockey, and da-da-da-da, and so on and so forth. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Eddie Arcaro lost his first 45 races in a row. Okay? Now imagine, he kept going. Imagine when he got on the horse the 46th time, what was going through that guy's mind. He lost 45 races and he gets on the horse for 46. Imagine who would give this guy a horse, right? Well, Eddie, have you ever won a race? Well, no, sir, I haven't. Yeah, mamma mia. Yet they gave him a horse, right? He got on the horse the 46th time, went running along, all of a sudden, bada boom, bada bing. He won. And the next race, he won. And then another one, and he won, and he won, and he won until he became the world's best jockey. But he had lost 45 races in a row. But he didn't give up. He knew he had what it takes to be a good jockey. He knew he could make it if he kept going. He knew someday he was going to be one of the best. So he kept going. And so it is with you. Like I say, don't worry about failure. Failure is an inherent part of success. Understand that, but do it anyway. Fear is an inherent part of success, but do it anyway. Question: what are the emotional effects of speaking on you? Oh, okay. For me, I think the emotional effect is joy, satisfaction, happiness to share. Okay, a lot of times I'll be talking in my lectures and I look out at the audience and I see them nodding. And you know you're connecting with them. You know you hit a nerve. You know you're saying something that they can identify with. And you can give them tips of how to better that or whatever it is they're going through. Okay, in comedy, when we talk about stuff like that, we call them common denominators. You talk about things that everybody can relate to. Because let's face it, we're all going through life together. Okay? My friend Leo Buscaglia, beautiful man that he was. He wrote all these books on love and everything. He was an incredible man. He was a professor at USC. He had like, I think it was 20 million books in circulation around the world on the subject of love and everything. He said he used to get letters all the time from people asking him for questions, as though he was like Ann Landers or something, you know, or whatever it is, where people say, you know, Dear Kitty, what should I do? They would write to him and ask him all these different problems. And he said one woman wrote to him with this problem and said, what should I do? And he said he anguished over it for days, and it really bothered him. He said he couldn't sleep at night or anything, trying to come up with something. And finally, he said he got a sheet of paper and his pen, and he wrote across the paper, how should I know I'm going through life too? And he sent it off. And I thought, right on, because none of us has the exact answer. Let's say all the answers you need are inside of you. Okay? I say, don't listen to anybody's opinion about you because it's usually wrong. Your opinion about you is the only thing that matters. You understand? Learn to trust yourself. Learn to trust your inspiration, that inner voice. Okay? The emotional effects when I talk with people is very positive because I believe in trying to share and help. And if I could see a little smile on their face, if I could see them nodding in agreement or something, it does my heart good because I know that here I am sharing something that's going to benefit them. Okay? And that's what life's all about. We're here to help each other. Okay? Life isn't a competition in spite of what society tells us and the media tells us. Life is a cooperation. Okay? It's not a jungle out there. It's not dog eat dog world and everything. You know, a lot of times they say, oh, nature, everybody's trying to kill each other and everything. Not so. If you really start to analyze nature, you'll see that all the animals and everything live in harmony. They only eat and kill what they need. They respect each other for the most part. They don't just kill for the sake of killing and so on. So life is a cooperation, not a competition. Remember that. Okay, that's very, very important. You know, Lily Tomlin talks about, you know, the rat race. You know, they talk about dog eat dog. It's a rat race out there and everything. Lily Tomlin says, even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So be nice. Be kind. Leo Pascal used to talk about doing something nice for somebody, and if they don't thank you or rejoice, do it anyway. He says, you do it not because they're kind, but because you are. Do it anyway. Another question. Some say a great leader has to be a great manipulator. Does it always have to be that way? Absolutely not. To me, a great leader is someone who is a great follower. You have to first understand how to follow in order to lead. You'll find, I think, some of the best directors, some of the best movies you ever saw were by directors who were actors at one time because they learned what it is to be an actor. And now that they're a director, they know how to maneuver the actors and communicate with the actors. Do you understand? So to me, the best leader was a good follower first, always. And somebody, you know, it says, does it always have to be that way? They have to be a great manipulator? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, to me, a leader that's a manipulator doesn't belong being a leader. Okay, because he's being untrue to the people. Okay, he has a private agenda. He's self-serving. To me, that's not a good leader. If a leader is a manipulator, he's not a good leader as far as I'm concerned. Okay? A good leader works with the people, not at the people. That's very important. So for me, a good leader has to first learn to be a good follower. Anyway, that's my take on it. That's the name of that tune. Okay? Again, that's my opinion. Alrighty. Again, please go to whatiwill.com. Christmas is coming up. These books make wonderful gifts. If you have a friend that's downtrodden, that's depressed, that's hard on themselves or herself, get one of these books because truly, I believe they will help. They're guidebooks. They're helper books. Another question. Describe your first impression of God. Mamma mia, why don't you ask me a nice question, you know, like what's the meaning of life or something? Okay, again, I'll tell you a little story first of all. When I was teaching in college, I once I started the class out the very first day or two, and we were talking about things, and I said, well, something with your higher self or something, listen to that. And afterwards, everybody left except one guy. And he came up to me and he said, are you a born again Christian? And I said, I beg your pardon? He said, I want to know right now. He said, otherwise, he said, I'm not going to come to your class anymore. And I told him straight out, I said, look, in the first place, what I am is none of your business. If you're asking me if I'm spiritual, I'm very spiritual. If you're asking me if I'm religious, I'm not religious per se, but I'm very spiritual. Do I believe in God? Of course, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I said, beyond that, that's all you need to know. And he left. And he did come back, though, to my class and stayed in the class. I think he even got an A. But so to me, our relationship, each person's relationship with God or not, is certainly a very personal thing. For me, in my particular case, you say my first impression of God is interesting, because my impression of God is a very loving entity, okay? Very loving. I believe God is pure good, okay? I don't believe there's an angry God or a vengeful God or one that's going to get even with you or anything like that. I think those are all manifestations of our own minds and things in various religions that will, teach you to live in fear, okay? I believe in the goodness of people, and I think God, like I say, is loving and pure. And to me, love is one of the most powerful energies on earth, and we've been blessed with love. And we are manifestors of love. And to me, I used to even take issue with Einstein's E equals MC squared, because they say the C, that squared, is light, because they say light is the fastest thing known in the universe. And I disagree with that, because I think love is the fastest thing in the universe. Love is indeed an energy, and it travels at the speed of thought. You could send love to somebody halfway around the world, and if it's truly heartfelt and you're truly into it and everything, they're going to feel that, okay? So love is the most important energy in the world and the fastest energy in the world, and it moves at the speed of thought, okay? Let me see a question here. What from the past haunts you about public speaking? Okay, I don't think I get haunted anymore, but I will tell you this. Public speaking tends to be one of the scariest things for human beings, especially in America, in the Western world and everything. As a matter of fact, public speaking is listed. Now, this is cool, interesting. Public speaking is listed as the #1 greatest fear. Second is death. So it even beats out death. People are afraid to get up in front of other groups and talk and speak, okay? I taught at a middle school where the principal was a beautiful man, an awesome man, really off the wall, though he was really kind of different. He used to say we seceded from the school district. We were our own entity. We did our own thing. He was a great man. He had great philosophies about and different ways about educating students and things. As a matter of fact, on payday, he would come roller skating down the hall to give the teachers their paychecks. But he basically believed so much in public speaking and talking and saying what's on your mind and everything that he mandated that every single student in that school went through my 6-week public speaking class. And it was interesting because literally, and this is the honest truth, literally, I'll get letters from people that were my students 25, 30, 35 years ago saying, thank you so much. That was one of the best courses I ever went through, and it's helped me for the remainder of my life. And that's neat, because we all have this fear of getting up in front of people. But if we can dissipate that somehow, what a beautiful gift we've given someone. Because when I first started out teaching and stuff, I can remember calling on a student and you see them just starting to shake and they turn red and they start to stumble and stuff. And you think, wow, I shouldn't have called on that poor person. I think that person's going to throw up, But if we can dissipate that and show the kids and teach the kids that, hey, it's no big thing to get up in front of people and talk. What a beautiful gift we've given them. So like I say, that principal, wonderful man that he was, he had every kid go through a speaking course until it became like second nature for them. And then they went on to high school and college and life and everything else. And they had a tool for life, something that they were no longer afraid of. Okay. So as a matter of fact, probably in about a month or so, I think I'm going to go online and teach another public speaking course. I teach a public speaking course at the colleges and stuff that's called Public Speaking for the Faint of Heart. Okay. I use what I call the backdoor method. Okay. I've had great success with it and everything. And I like purposely to talk with people who are afraid of getting up in front and talking to other people. Okay. Because it's just a superficial fear. And if I could get them past that fear, it becomes a beautiful thing for them, because now they have a true tool. They could go to a city council meeting or something and say what's on their mind without throwing up or fainting or whatever. Okay. So, yeah, I get great joy from talking with people. What information would you use to sketch out a speech script? Very important. This again is inherent in my classes when I teach public speaking. The key thing is, number one, you have to relate it to the people. Okay. I never write out a script verbatim, and I advise you never to do that. Because if you do and you memorize it word for word, that's probably one of the worst things you could do, because nobody likes a canned speech, because it's almost a slap in the face. It's like you don't care enough to talk to us directly, that you're just citing words like a recorder. Okay, so never write your speech out word for word. An outline is the best thing you can do. I use outlines when I give speeches. When I talk for an hour, hour and a half, sometimes I'll use an outline. Okay, an outline are merely little titles, if you will, or phrases or something that triggers something that you should talk about, and then you talk about it in your own words. So if you do the same, quote unquote, same speech 3 times, each time they should be a little different, because that's what makes you personable. That's what makes you you. All you're doing is just hitting the highlights, and then you're elaborating on it in your own words. It's almost like when you tell a joke. You know, let's say there's a woman with a dog, a joke about a woman with a dog. You don't have to write the words out verbatim. You just need to write the title, Woman with the Dog. And each time you tell that joke, it's going to be a little different. The word order or whatever, it's going to be different, but yet the essence of the joke is the same. That's how it should be when you're talking. You make an outline form with just key topics or phrases. Okay. Number one, you need to start out with telling them why whatever it is you're talking about concerns them. Because as I mentioned earlier, nobody wants to listen to something that doesn't concern them. What's the point? So you shouldn't be talking to them if what you say doesn't concern them. It's your obligation as a speaker, if you're talking to someone, tell them how your information directly concerns them. That's your obligation. Okay. And you should always end with telling them how they can use this new information. Okay. Now that you know that this can save your life, you might want to jot it down sometime, and so you never forget it. Whatever. Okay. We have another question here. Okay. Okay. Oh, again, talking about the content of public speaking. Okay. I use something called the bullseye plan. Okay. It has 5 steps. Okay. And I elaborate on all of these, obviously, because I do a workshop on this and we practice and everything else. But the first one's called wake up. That means get their attention. You have an obligation initially to get the attention of the audience. Okay. If you're being introduced and you walk up on stage and you're walking to the podium, that visual in itself caught their attention. Okay. It's when you stop and you look out at the audience that you could lose them all or hold their attention. So it's your obligation initially to hold their attention. Okay. I remember when I was in the Army and they told my partner, one of the guys I was working with, that he had to give a talk on whatever it is we were working on in the Army. And he said, okay. So I remember, and the guys used to hate talks. You used to be obligated to go to a lesson on how to rewire this thing or how to do that thing or whatever. And they would, because they were already in the Army and everything, they would go to the class. It was mandatory, mandated. But what are you going to do? Throw them out? They hope you threw them out of the Army, So they would go in there and they would start to put their feet up and they would lean back and they would go to sleep and everything. So nobody liked to teach classes because the audience was always totally uninterested and everything. So they told this guy he had to teach a class. I'll remember he went to teach the class and I was in the audience, one of the students, and there were probably about 50 of us guys. And sure enough, before the class started, and everything, the podium was up in front and the guys were coming in and they were getting comfortable and they were starting to put their feet up and lean back and close their eyes and everything. And sure enough, when it was time to start, he comes walking out, goes right up to the podium. And I guess the class before, some guy was talking about drafting or something because it was one of those T-squares, those things they used to use drawing and stuff. And so he looks out at the audience. When it was time to start, he picks up the T-square and blam! He hits it on the top of the thing and he says, "Don't you ever go to sleep on me, because what I have to tell you could mean the difference of whether you live or die." And everybody was sitting in the audience with their eyes glued on him, and it was amazing. So he got their attention, okay? That doesn't mean you have to come out and startle your audience. No, there are different ways to get people's attention. You could start out with a joke, and if you're not a good joke teller, I recommend you don't do that, okay? Especially if the joke's bad and doesn't go over, then you've lost your audience and everything, okay? But you can start out with a joke. You can start out with a question. You can look at the audience and say, "How would you like to wake up dead someday?" Right away, the audience is going to pay attention. Well, yeah, I don't think I'd like that. So you can start out with a question or start out with a joke or start out with something. But the idea is get their attention. Number 2, always tell them how the joke concerns them. Okay. And number 3, talk about the topics you're going to talk about. Tell them ahead of time. Number 4, tell them again, like I say, how it concerns them. And then number 5, I see we're almost out of time here. Number 5, tell them what they can do with this new information. Okay. If you want to elaborate on this a little more, write to me directly. My email is joe@josephgiampapa.com. I see we're almost out of time here. I've enjoyed talking with you guys. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you for listening. Please, for Christmas, these books make a wonderful Christmas gift. whatIwillican.com. There's a lot of good information there. You could get my books on Amazon. You could get them at Barnes & Noble. But if you go to this site, there's a discount for the books. So I would recommend that. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed talking with you. Have a beautiful day. Better than that, have a beautiful life. Bye-bye.